So, take two for the ones what have been in here. It's another episode of Let Us Talk, special tonight with Nick from Nightingale FC. Just waiting for a few people to come back in and obviously Nick to come back in. Hopefully the problems all sorted. We'll have a look and see if it's working when Nick comes back in. Yeah, as I was saying, some exciting news to come. What my girlfriend, partner has sorted out for me. Hopefully, I can announce it in the next couple of days. It will be massive for Let Us Talk and the show. So, yeah, have a look out for that in the next couple of days when I post it up, and hopefully, it'll be confirmed in the next couple of days. Just waiting for Nick to come back in. To answer your question, Zach, no, I haven't got any mental health. My dad had some mental health issues before Christmas 2 years ago, so I'm just passing on some of my experiences from that and views from that, also of just in general letting people open up and hopefully talk about things what they've got problems with, or if they've got any experiences, or so basically that's what this live is all about. I've had time over lockdown to be able to do this, so hopefully this will work now with Nick.
No, it's just not having it.
No, so no, it's not working. So can everyone hear Nick in here? Do you want to try with the other one, Nick, or?
Yeah, we'll try the other page, mate. I've tried going through the settings. All the settings are fine. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, all right. Try with your one then. I'll cancel you
Yeah.
off, and then uh, while we're waiting for Nick to come back on, when will goals open again? So goals is open at the moment, but it's not open to league. You can go back down there, and I think it's one to a certain amount of time. And you can have 3-on-3 or something like that. But hopefully, goals and also other centres will be open soon, especially Leisure League. So obviously, they run the England six-a-side, what I'm manager of as well. So hopefully, all these centres will be back open and help people's physical and mental health after lockdown. Let me see if this will work now with Nick.
No, it's still not having it.
Okay, mate. It's all right. We'll do this anyway. We'll just have a chat on here. Everyone can hear you anyway, they're saying. So, so anyone what don't know you, obviously introduce yourself, Nick, and we'll go from there.
Try again, mate. So basically, I've been working with a non-profit charity team called Nightingale FC. We only started about 8 weeks ago. The growth has been absolutely massive, to be honest. The idea is that we're trying to support NHS workers nationwide. It started off as locally. We live near Birmingham. But the interest has been massive with everything that's going on with coronavirus and the amount of work they're putting in. The idea is now that we're looking at trying to build a portfolio of NHS workers across the UK that can play in football events. It's mainly to celebrate them, really, and all the work that they do. So obviously mental health is going to play a big key with them, not alone.
So yeah. So go on, Nick.
Yeah, nightmare. This is.
Yeah.
We're staying on. Sorry, bud.
Sorry. No, sorry. Go on. Carry on.
Yeah, we've got about 85 NHS workers so far, key workers signed up to sort of represent the team. The idea is that if we can have tournaments all around the UK, we've got enough players signed up, we can sort of take that team anywhere and celebrate NHS trusts across the United Kingdom. I say we've only been together 8 weeks. We're really pushing to try and grow the team as fast as we can. I've watched a lot of your videos recently, having only met you sort of a couple of days ago. And a bit different to sort of a lot of the people that have been on here. I'm not really from a a massive football playing background. I've never played at a really sort of high standard. I've always been more down the coaching route. I'm a teacher in terms of day-to-day work. I had a really successful kids football team over the last 4 years, from the age of 9 up to the age of 30.
It's quite frustrating tonight, but we will get through it.
Sorry,
Go
but
on. We just have to keep doing it. If it keeps cutting out, it's fine. We just keep doing it. And
no worries.
just
So yeah,
get through it.
basically day-to-day work. I'm a teacher. So I see children that are playing at academy level. There's a lot of dropout as well, which I sort of pick up the day-to-day troubles that come with that. There's not a lot of support, I don't think, put in place by football teams when children are released. And it does have a negative impact on their academic background and what happens from their sort of day-to-day life. In terms of mental health, all 4 of us behind the Nightingale project that have set it up, we've all had our own issues with mental health. 2 of the lads did a charity event for mine last year, raising around £4,000. And we've all had our own individual issues. If we go into the story about mine just quickly, my first experience of what mental health was when my dad was diagnosed with panic attacks and anxiety disorder. I was a teenager at the time. My dad was... I'll go again. So as I was saying, my dad was like a typical sort of macho bloke. Mental health was sort of, nobody knew what it was when it happened, and he'd be the first person to probably sort of deny that he'd got any issues. But he was driving back from work one day. He was in a really high-pressure job. He phoned us up saying he thought, and he was actually diagnosed as having panic attacks. We had to go through the whole thing as kids of watching the DVD, trying to understand what it was, and that's all that was out there at the time. This sort of spiraled from him being in a really high-paid job, being put on all sorts of medication. There was no real support there for him, if I'm honest. And it culminated in one point where he got to the point where he was going to try and commit suicide. I remember coming back from school, getting home, and
Sorry about this, everyone, but we will get through it.
sorry, yeah, so I got home. There was a suicide note in the kitchen, and all of a sudden, this man that had been the centre of my life all the way through, teaching us the way to grow up properly and be decent lads, he just got to the point where he'd had enough. He didn't know where to turn. He felt that it was an embarrassment to family and other people going through what he was going through. It had an impact on his finances, and eventually he did seek help, and there were some things that were put in place to help him, but he never really got back to anywhere near the kind of man that he was. And really sadly, 2009, I won't go into details of what actually happened to him in terms of how he died, because it was pretty sudden. But he died of a heart attack, and I still to this day put a lot of that down to what happened with the mental health and the meds and the things that he was put on. Just didn't make him a well man at all. And like I say, really well-known man in terms of the local community, refereed 2 or 3 games a week. He was 47, he'd be out running 18. Yeah, so he'd be like out running 18-year-olds. He'd be in his 3rd 90-minute match of the weekend. They'd just be kicking off and he'd still be out running them. And to lose him at that age was devastating. It had a massive impact on me in terms of my academic background. I was just going through my degree at the time. Luckily for me, I'm the kind of person that buries my head in work, which some people would say is a detriment. But that was my focus. It was my way of keeping my head on the straight and narrow. My younger brother took it quite badly. And again, he was a phenomenal footballer. He was playing at Birmingham City in the academy. As Dad became ill, it really messed with Jace as well. And again, I do attribute the fact that he dropped out of football to what happened to my dad. But there wasn't really that support there, and we're only talking sort of 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, obviously you're touching on it, the support weren't there. Why do you feel, obviously, like it needs, obviously, I know you've watched some of the things, and a lot of people have said over the time about pushing it in schools earlier. How do you feel people can do that?
Sorry, mate, go on.
So I'm just saying, how do you feel people can push it in schools earlier? I know that's something you wanted to touch on. Obviously, that mental health, obviously, like in schools. How do you feel they can push it into schools earlier?
Well, for me, it needs to be part of the curriculum, straightforward. Like, I've been teaching 11 years or so now. I've worked with middle schools and primary schools, and we don't really, even now, we look at what we're given in terms of what we're supposed to teach national curriculum-wise. And in terms of talking about what mental health is, all we talk about is turning negatives to positives. Well, that doesn't cover 99% of the complexity of what mental health is. Children need to know it from an early age. A child's brain development, it's been proven through neuroscience. Child develops quicker in their first few years of growing up. If we're tackling it, 12, 13 years down the line, there's damage in things that can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just saying that, if it's been 13 years or so before they start to touch upon it, as it starts to come into the curriculum, the experiences and the events that happen in their life early on shape them as a human being. And we really need to be getting them to understand what mental health is from an early age, spotting the signs of it, understanding why it's not right to talk to others in a certain manner. It's all right going on about manners and being polite, but you don't know that impact you're having on someone. Like I say, verbally, it can be 10 times worse than the physical.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, you touched on obviously that Nightingale has obviously opened up, or some of the people have opened up to like doing events for Mind and that. But what is actually Night? Obviously, you've said a little bit about it, but what is Nightingale FC, and what are your plans, obviously, for it for the future?
So we can see there's a lot of charity teams out there, and we've got massive.
You got,
Oh, we've got a frozen picture now.
you got it? Are you all right?
Yeah, I can hear you, but again, my face is not frozen in a great position. So Nightingale is primarily just about thanking NHS workers. There's millions of charities out there that are doing really good work with different people, and we've got that respect for them. But for me, it was looking at a way that we can thank directly NHS workers across the board, not just the people that you see on the wards, but looking at your ambulance drivers, your cleaners, people who are catering. It's a massive team that's come together, and with the negativity that's in the news at the moment, with everything going on, it's a way of putting people together. There's 150 odd nationalities behind the NHS, and it's something that is unique around the world. We really should be celebrating the fact that we've got that. And they're going to be here a long time after this coronavirus has gone as well. So our job is to celebrate them and what they do. And if we can do that through football, which is our key interest, then that's the way we want to do it.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a great cause, and hopefully, obviously, everything comes after lockdown, and hopefully, all that vision come for the future does come true. Um, you touched on obviously a lot. There is a lot of charity teams and everything like that. How do you feel these charity teams and other projects can help with people's mental health going forward?
I think straight away, the buzz that you get from playing football, that release for 90 minutes of getting on the pitch and being with people around you that are like-minded is a big push. But I think we've started to establish links with these charities around the country. We've got a group we've set up in the first few weeks, which is talking on a day-to-day basis with charities that represent cancer, mental health, all sorts of different spectrums. And I think we've got to come together collectively, show that it can be done. I think it's a really powerful time at the moment with the time we've had off. Just saying,
Sorry, going up.
we're talking to them on a day-to-day basis, so it's looking at ways that we can do joint events, making sure we're constantly and consistently spreading that message. Things that are going on like Prince William at the moment with the Heads Together Foundation, brilliant idea, and it looks great at the moment. Figures talking about it, but I still want to see how that's going to be fed down to sort of grassroots level.
Yeah, that's what we kept on touching on a lot, obviously, on this. It's great at the top level in the Premier League and all these stars and everything like that. But what about the grassroots level? How do you feel grassroots clubs can be helped to put it into their football clubs, and obviously in education, learning, as you say, in a curriculum. But like, how can people help?
Right, so in terms of that, for me, I think, you know, the big football teams owe a lot to the people that are around them. You know, we pay their wages is always an easy phrase to say, but we actually do. You know, I'm a season ticket holder for 25 years. I want to see my club going out there and putting out, you know, the football in the community people as much as they can, but I know still they're limited in terms of the numbers of staff they've got on roll. This is where I think things like salary cap, using the money that teams have got, they've got to be used correctly. You know, the football's going to be here a long time after this, but we've got to start putting things in place for the next generation. And it's all right saying, you know, we'll do something about it and keep putting it off. That's what happened to my dad 10 years ago. It's been happening to people a long time before that. But when are we actually going to see people from football going into schools on a regular basis and saying, look, you know, it's a hard career. This is what happens. If you drop out, this is what happens. As I said to you earlier, I see kids who have been released from academies coming into school and the whole world has collapsed around them at the age of 11 or 12. I was just saying there's nothing in place for those guys when they're coming back in school. You know, we support them as much as we can, and I'll give as much time I personally can, but I'm not an expert. And this is where we need people that are qualified, that are trained, that have been there in that same experience, passing on their knowledge to these children, saying that there are better things out there.
Yeah, I was saying, I've asked obviously the same question to a few people. It's all good and well, and I believe, yeah, obviously you've got to have education in this and qualified for it. But sometimes I feel like the best qualification is you might have people what might have gone through mental health or had experiences of mental health as well. So I think it can be incorporated, you know what I mean, a little bit better than what it is, because somebody who's gone through it and come out the other side, they've had that experience, so they can pass it on to other people, I feel, and that needs to be more incorporated, I feel. What are your obviously thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. I think, you know, I've been there myself, like many people that you've had on your videos and stuff. You know, we all can talk about something that's happened to us because we've come through that. But there needs to be the correct training in place in the first place as well, because you know, we can talk about our experiences, but it's how you put that across to children and younger people as well. I did a thing called Thrive, and it's a really good thing to look up if anybody's watching. It's something that's starting to be drip fed in some schools, but it looks at the neuroscience behind a child's development. It's looking at how we use play, so things like football, sports, other games, arts, things like that, to show children how to express themselves. And it might be through their expression, through what they do, we can pick up that there's a problem. But if we're stuck in the same ways of 20, 30 years ago, having 30 children sat in a classroom ticking boxes, we're going to end up with a generation of kids who are just trying to jump through hoops, get the levels they need to, and if they don't achieve them, they're going to fall by the wayside. So that training and those courses have got to be put in place for the people who are with those children day in, day out.
100%. Why do you feel, especially maybe in football, in general, but why do you feel it's so hard for maybe men in general to speak around football if they've had struggles with mental health, and do you still feel there's a stigma behind mental health?
I think there is. I think it's refreshing to see that it's now at the forefront of society in terms of like the things that we see with the daily hashtags, the campaigns and stuff. Like I said to you earlier, I just want that to follow through. You know, I'll only believe that when I see it's further down the line and it's actually having an impact. But like I said with my dad was your stereotypical sort of macho bloke, and I think a mental illness is almost felt like it could be a weakness from some people. And I know that my dad was an incredibly successful man. I've seen other. So I've seen kids in school whose parents have played football at incredibly high standard who have gone through it as well. And I do think it is the whole bravado thing. You know, we build a lot of children up to see like superstars as being all flash and everything's perfect, but if they dig deeper, they don't know how many footballers are going through the sort of things that they go through on a day-to-day basis as well. They see the money, they see the cars, they see everything else, but they don't know what is going on in that player's mind.
100%. What do you feel the best thing going forward after obviously lockdown that people can do to help maybe people struggling with mental health, and also what can people put in place maybe through the government or projects or funding to get into the education sector and lower down in grassroots football maybe?
Incredible question, really, the depth of that one. From the edge. Sorry, I'll break that question down. So for the education to start off with, as that's my background, there's a lot of money that is wasted in a lot of places in terms of what kids learn. You know, we're not training children up necessarily. They have some skills for specific academics, but we need children to learn like resilience, to learn about talking to people, know what empathy is. And like I said to you, there's got to be investment into how that can be taught on a day-to-day basis, not just once a term, not just a project. It's got to be a daily thing where children learn it day in, day out. In terms of grassroots football, obviously, if it's starting from the kids' age, I think it reciprocates. The schools and the clubs have got to have links as well. I think, you know, that's one thing that I think lacks in where I am in Worcestershire. There's not enough collaboration between the schools and the local football clubs, and that would be a brilliant opportunity to have, you know, semi-pros or qualified coaches going through exactly what mental health is to children. Inside, though, like I say, I do think after all, the Premier League have got a perfect opportunity now, while everything's going on with people being furloughed, without the crowds being there, everything else. This is a time for them to set an example. And for me, it's going to really frustrate me now if we go 3-4 months down the line without crowds at football, and you know they haven't got all the pressures of people shouting at them and stuff and everything else. This is a chance for them to come out and say what they're going to do, be a pioneer, set an example, do something that's not just going to be changing things in this country, but other people are going to follow it.
100%. Last couple of questions, because obviously it keeps cutting out tonight. So hopefully we can sort it out and get you back on another time. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's been 100% really insightful. And yeah, I definitely want to get you back on, obviously, another time when this technology is actually working properly, and we can have a real good inside chat. You know what I mean? But overall, if you know somebody who is struggling with mental health, so I'll just wait for him to come on. Yeah, so if you know somebody who's struggling with mental health, how do you feel people can help?
I think there's a lot to be said for, you know, just asking how somebody is, and just, you know, asking if everything's all right. A lot of the time, ignorance is the biggest sort of problem that causes mental health. You know, the amount of times you see someone, and I see it in children where they sort of shy away from going over to someone and asking if they're all right, or they just presume they're all right because of the way they look. And as I said, this comes right back to daily sort of teaching, making sure that we have the morals that we're bringing children through to actually care and understand that principles of life of love and care are just as important as English and maths and everything else. One thing I'd love to see, and this is just one thing that is a big vision for me, we see things like comic relief, we see like sports relief. I would love there to be a specific event for mental health that is held annually to really bring it to the forefront of society. We do so much for physical health as well. I know it touches upon mental. Sorry, here we go again. So, you know, comic relief does touch upon sort of mental health as well. But if we had a single event that was massive, that was either global or even just in the UK, where we've got people that are spearheads, people who are national figures, coming forwards and saying about the issues that they've had, the power that that could have, and the money that could be raised from that, would go straight into education and grassroots football.
100%. I feel like, I don't know if you see Martin on Monday, but he turned around and said it needs to be now that we do a big campaign, especially with people's mental health struggling now. He said, especially like within football, he said, I really feel like we should be pushing it forward now, like the campaign of a few years ago when people were saying, well, that people were gay in football and they didn't want to come out,
Yeah.
and they done a big campaign. They done a big campaign for that. He feels like it's got to be something like that going forward now, like to do that. Do you feel something like that would benefit, especially obviously within football, but in general, as you in the country, especially at this time of what we're going through?
Yeah, like I said before, I think this is the time to act. It's been long enough that we've waited for someone like Prince William or somebody of a high stature to come forward and say something needs to be done. And as I said, I want to see that spread down. But the longer we leave it, the more complex, the harder it gets, and the more excuses get made. And we've really got to push it as fast and as big as possible. Like you say about the campaign, there's no reason why that can't be done. You know, we have focus days in football for different things. But mental health is, you know, it's right up there. As people like yourself and myself have been through it, we've seen what can happen to people. Let's not sort of butter it up. There's people that are dying from it. Yeah. Putting it as bluntly as possible.
For the ones that are just coming here, the technology is not really working. We're going in and out with Nick tonight. As I said, we're going to get him back on another time, hopefully, as well. But we're just going to deal with this tonight. Go on. Sorry, Nick.
So I was just finishing off by just saying, like, you know, people are dying from mental health, whether it takes them down the route, the suicide route, or anything else. You know, not themselves, whatever it is. That's how serious it is, and that phrase never really gets mentioned much. I think that's the level of seriousness we've got to push it.
100%. I feel that. Obviously, last little thoughts, and as I say, we'll get you back on when we've sorted this technology out or whatever, because it's been really insightful, and I'm sure more viewers will come on when this is all sorted. But what is your overall thoughts on mental health, and going forward, how do you feel like yourself and other people can do this now and motivate people to speak about it more, and hopefully obviously help more people? Let me just get him back on.
Try and whiz through this. So me personally, like from my job, I have the power that I can speak to children on a day-to-day basis, and I feel it's my job not just to go and teach a lesson, but when I'm in there, I've got that 30, 40 minutes to capture the children's imagination. Football, for me, it's been a vehicle to bring kids together in lessons that they don't like. You know, so for me, bringing them in and teaching the principles of mental health, care, love, trust, helping one another, it's got to be pushed day in, day out, and it's got to be done from, like I say, a really, really early age.
Yeah, 100%. Nick, thank you for coming on. Obviously, this has not really helped tonight, but it's been really insightful. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It happens. We'll sort the technology out, and we're scheduled to get you back on 100%. And we'll have a better talk, obviously, face to face, hopefully, instead of just over this. So let's just get him back on. Go on then, mate.
And I was just going to say, just keep doing what you're doing as well, because things like this are massive. And the other people that have been speaking over the last few weeks, and the people who have been dropping in and out tonight, I've watched a lot of the videos over the last few days, because I've only known you a week. And there's a massive scope and potential with this. We've got to keep it going. Even if it's just helping one person out, it's one more person that's potentially going to take action over it. So just keep it going, bud.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Nick. Obviously, yeah, if you want to just throw out, obviously, Nightingale FC socials quickly.
Mega quick. You go at Nightingale FC on Twitter, at Nightingale FC 2020 on Instagram, and we've got a Just Giving page which explains all our fundraisers. Just search Nightingale FC.
Okay, that's perfect, Nick. And we'll catch up real soon. Keep safe, and we'll sort this out to get you back on. Yeah,
take care, mate. Thanks to everybody else who's been sharing their thoughts recently. Cheers.
Thank you very much, mate. Cheers. So that was Nick from Nightingale FC. Technology hasn't been great for us tonight, but really insightful. Great chat with him. As I said at the start, hopefully in the next couple of days can have some exciting news. with a guest coming on, real big name. And that was sorted out from my girlfriend and my partner Zoe. So I can't thank her enough for that. For everyone that was on here tonight and who's watching it back, you can go to mental health hashtag Let Us Talk on YouTube. Go there, have a look at the last ones. This will get still uploaded because I want people to hear obviously what Nick has said tonight. It's really insightful. Keep pushing mental health. If anyone's having a struggle, you know where I am. I'm back on Monday night with 4 more guests at 8 o'clock. Ronnie from Sporting Club Thamesmead, newly established Sunday club. But they've been to mates for many years, and he's coming on as a representative of that club. Keith Bonus, who is the assistant manager currently at Colshorten Athletic, real mentor of mine when we was younger, with the coaching and everything like that. Went on to be very successful in the non-league game and also the women's game. With Charlton Athletic, and then went to Estonia as the national team manager. So really looking forward to having him on. George Jones, who was up until this season at Even Belvedere. And last but not least, we've got Ericsson, who I believe has just come in. He'll be on, best known for winning basically everything on a Sunday with Kenningwell. And running community sessions for adults and kids. But here we explain that all on Monday night. So I'm looking forward to them 4 guests. That's me finished for tonight. I'll be back on Monday. Anyone's got any issues or any struggles, please, you know where I am. Let us talk. Back on Monday night at 8 o'clock. Hopefully see you all then. Bye-bye.